Ahoy there, I'm Tiny Pirate. Welcome to my series Drones for Gamers, and today we're going to be talking about the Hubsan X4, which is what I'm currently chasing after in this video. And it's a great little quadcopter for beginners, and I think it's a lot of fun, and I've got a few observations to make about little modifications and things you need to think about if you're going to be picking one of these up, or one of the similar kinds of small quadcopters or drones that are out there. First of all, you do want to have a little tool like this, and I got this little prop popping off tool with some spare props. When I got my own Hubsan, they did not come with that tool, so having it in those spare props was good. I also got a bunch of spare props because you will break some, and there's just a handful of the ones that I have broken in the course of flying my X4. The other thing you want to do is when you get batteries, and you do probably want a spare or two or three, is you want to throw a little bit of tape across the back of them and to fold it like a little lip so that you can pull out the battery easy, because you don't want to be tugging on the power cords. So a little bit of electrical tape actually works a lot better than that duct tape that I've used, and I've marked one of those batteries there with an X so that I can tell them apart, because I've got two duct taped and one electrical taped. So electrical tape I think is better, provides an easier, slippier, less resistant way of getting the battery in and out. Now, one of the problems with the X4 is that the battery cable at the back will easily pop out. Any crash or anything will pop the battery out. So what I've done is I've tied two rubber bands together, or if you've got a big one, throw a few knots across the middle of it. And then I throw a loop over each of the arms at the front, and I take my knotted tied together end and I just fold that over the back, holding the cables in with it. And if you get it right, so kind of one's over and one's under, it will hold those cables in no problem, and you won't have any issues with your battery falling out either on crash. So that's absolutely brilliant. Really useful thing to do with your quadcopter, as is crashing it into yourself and slamming it into your park bench. I also bought some covers. These are extra covery covers, more than the default ones. So these sort of aftermarket purchasable ones are not Hubsan brand or anything, but they have a top cover to them as well, as you can see. A little bit of a fiddle to get them in, and do note that the clips clip onto the frame itself, not around the motor stem or what have you. I thought they did that originally, but then I was being a bit dumb. Figured out, yes, they clip onto the body. So when they clip onto the body, thankfully for me, it started up my front light. So the broken front light is broken no more. My Froglops is now a Bilops. It has two eyes, no longer a Cyclopean Terror. And this little green prop protector guard cover thing is pretty cool, and if you're a new pilot, I really recommend one, especially if you're flying around inside. My children have slammed this the quad with this prop cover into the roof repeatedly, and mostly they get really amused by the donk 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 sound it makes while the thing actually keeps on flying just fine. The other great thing is when it crashes, it tends to come right side up, just the shape of it perhaps, or a bit of luck, but it makes crashing into things a lot safer. You're not going to damage anything. You're not going to damage yourself. You're not going to have it get stuck in odd corners. It'll often bounce free. And you'll see that it's quite squishy on the top, easy to manage and handle, and quite robust. The only problem is it makes it very heavy. So if you look here, when I put the quad on a scale with the prop cover on, it's sort of 41 grams. And if I just weigh one of those covers on their own, 4.5, 5 grams, I'm guessing. So, I mean, that's quite a lot. That's 10% of the weight. And once you get used to flying your Hubsan, you will notice that it really does slow the quad down, trying to maneuver with that big cover on. So I thought I'd have a go at modifying mine a little bit by snipping off the extra weight, and just to make it still useful as a protector for the kind of flying that I can do now that I've been flying a bit, but reduce the mass a little. So I had some very old snips here, wire cutters, and I used them and took off quite a bit of weight. In particular, I took off the top cover, and I also chopped quite a bit off the back as well. So there was kind of 2 grams, 1.5 grams, 2 grams there. And then I took off a chunk of the back as well, because I don't usually fly into things backwards, so I figured that didn't need protecting. And I also took off one of the 3 kind of arm parts that goes down to the motor mounts, and perhaps that was a mistake, because I've had a couple of them break and I need to hot glue gun them back together again. But it did probably drop the mass, I'd say, by a couple of grams, maybe nearly a couple of grams. So that's pretty good. I mean, we're talking, you know, halving the weight of this cover, and I felt the whole quad was a lot more responsive after that. And you can see here, it comes in at 39 with those bits off instead of 41, 40-ish. So there's definitely a couple of grams lost. And as you can see, it flies around quite fine with it. I do prefer, now that I'm a bit more experienced, to fly without the covers. But one of the nice advantages of the cover is that when the quad is further away from you, you can actually see which way it's angled and attituded a little better than when it doesn't have its cover. And I'd also like to think that it gives other people who are watching a greater feeling of security. They can see the props are covered. Maybe they're a little less worried about the thing wildly veering into their face and, you know, replaying a Nicolas Cage movie about switching faces, in case you missed that reference. Anyway, so those are my little mods that I've made to the Hubsan, and I've found those really helpful. Pretty simple stuff, just some tape, rubber bands, messing around with the cover, snipping it back a bit. In my next video we'll have a look at flying it around, and I'll give you a few tips and pointers that I've picked up along the way. Until then, I've been Tony Pirate. Thanks for watching. Good night.